Hello and welcome to this session on topic 9, databases and MySQL. This is the third time you are using a Raspberry Pi in IGCSE Computer Science. We used it for topic 2, data transmission, to learn a little bit about encryption. We used it heavily for cybersecurity, and we are back on the Pi again to use it for databases and learning SQL. Now, first of all, if you have managed to hopefully log on to your Pi successfully and you are on the command line or inside the terminal window, we are going to have a look at our first command today. Now, does Kali Linux and does Linux come built in, or is MySQL actually going to be active on this Pi, or are there going to be some different things that we, or specifically you, need to configure? So we're going to type in our command first of all, which is going to be service, and it's going to be MySQL and status. And what we're going to be able to see here at the moment is that we have got our inactive database. It's showing as dead. We can also see that service is disabled and preset is disabled. We are going to have to enable these things in order to successfully set up a MySQL database so you can learn how to write queries. Now, there are going to be a couple of different applications which we are going to have to install on the command line here. So we're going to do an apt install, and we're going to say default, spell it correctly, otherwise it won't work, MySQL, and then client. So in order for us to use a database or set up a server which is using MySQL, we are going to need to install the client. So we're going to press on enter. And when it selects you to install, you are going to say yes. And it didn't prompt us to select yes, it just installed it for us, so we should be good to go with MySQL client. And the next thing that we're going to have to do is make sure that MySQL server is also installed. And I think that it is, but we're going to run this command very quickly anyway. So we're going to do apt install default MySQL, and then it is going to be -server. And what we should probably see here that 0 has been upgraded as it is already installed by default. Now that we've done this, what we are going to do is we're going to try to actually start the MySQL database. So to do that, we're going to type in service and then MySQL, and then we're going to do start. And this will take a moment for it to start, and then the next thing we're going to do is check the status of our database again. So we're going to type in service, MySQL, and then we're going to do status. And if you compare this result with the previous result, which we started with at the beginning, what you should be able to see is that the database is now active and running, and it is not dead. One of the issues that we are still seeing, though, is that the service is disabled and preset is also disabled. Now that we have seen that our database is now active, I have cleared my terminal window so we can kind of start fresh here. And what we're going to do is actually log into our MySQL database. So in order to do this, or in order to log in, we're going to type in MySQL. We're going to type in -u, and our username is root, and then -p for password. We're then going to be prompted to enter our password for Kali Linux. Apologies, so mine is nice and secure. So I've entered my password, and we are now in. Now, in order for us to look to see if there are any databases in here, we're going to type in the command show databases and semicolon at the end. Remember, just like what we've done on Kali Linux before, and just like with programming, everything is going to be command specific. So if you spell it wrong, or if you miss the semicolon, things are not going to work. So show databases should show us the default databases that are installed inside this system, plus one which I have created, which is called STA students. Now, in order to create a database in MySQL on the command line, we are going to need to use a command in uppercase, create, and then we're going to type in database, and then this time I'm going to type in STA, and then it is going to be staff. So let's use camel casing, so capital letter at the beginning. STA is all uppercase, I know, but capital letter for staff, just so we can see the difference between the function that we're using, create database, and the name of the database that we are creating. we must have a semicolon at the end, as that is the syntax that we need to use for MySQL. We're going to press on enter. And then once we've done that, we're going to type in show databases again. And what we'll be able to see is that our STA staff database has been created. And the next thing that we're going to be able to do is we are going to be able to write queries inside here. Now, we're going to base everything on the tasks which are inside topic 9 in your textbook. So we're going to be creating a different database in a couple of minutes' time once we have learned the basic commands. Okay, so now we have learned how to create a database inside SQL. What we now have to do is have a look at how we can actually create tables. Now, I've currently got STA staff set up as a database, and for this example here, I'm going to create another new database again, and that is going to be called patients. So I'm going to write create database patients, making sure we've got a capital P at the beginning, and then we're going to do semicolon. Now, if I now type in here show databases with a semicolon at the end, we're going to be able to see that patients has been created. Now, if we want to put a table inside patients, what we're going to do is type in use and then the name of the database that we have just created. Now that I have done this, you're going to be able to see that I am inside the patients database here. And what we want to do is create a table and set up different fields. So we could have things like first name, last name, doctor, phone number, and medical condition. So in order to set up a table, we're going to type in create table, and I'm going to call this patient underscore information. Once I've done this, I have to open a parenthesis, and I'm going to press on enter. Now that I've done this, you're going to be able to see that we've got an arrow, and what we're going to be able to do is actually set up all of the different fields or field headings here. So I'm going to type in patient, and then it's going to be first name. And what we're going to do here is we are going to have to set up data types as we go. And I'm actually going to backtrack a little bit. I'm going to call this patient ID, so we can set this to be our primary key. We're going to say patient ID is going to be of integer data type, so int. We're going to say it is a not null field, which means it cannot be left empty. And we're going to get this to auto increment, which basically means every time we add a new record, hopefully it's going to auto generate itself. Let's see if that works a little bit later on. Now that we have done this, I'm going to press on enter, checking that everything is okay. And I'm going to create a new patient record or patient field. So let's say patient first name. And we are going to use data type variable character, so varchar. We're going to allow somebody to enter up to 50 characters for their first name. So some first names might be particularly long. We're going to say that it can't be left blank, and then comma at the end. We're going to do the same thing for last name. If you press up on your keyboard and use the back tab arrow, you are going to be able to do this relatively quickly. So we're now going to press on enter. Last name has been created. We will also do patient phone number, and we're going to set this as an integer data type because we only want integers to be entered. And we are going to say that it can be 10 characters long. Again, it's not going to be left blank. And the last one we're going to do here is patient, and we can say doctor name. And we are going to set this as varchar again, so variable character. And let's set the doctor's name to also be up to 50 characters, not null, and then comma. Now, what we have to do is set a primary key. Now, primary keys are typically going to be unique identifiers. That basically means that if we search by a patient ID, say 001, only one record should be returned. We don't want to use patient first name or last name as our primary key or a unique identifier, as there may be multiple patients that have the same first name and also last name. So to set up our primary key, we are going to type in primary key, open up our parenthesis, and we're going to use the patient ID. Now, again, what you're going to have to do here is just make sure that when we are setting up the patient ID, that there are no replications. So primary key, patient ID, enter, and then to finish this off, we are going to need to do close bracket, and then semicolon, and I think that we should be good to go. Now, we can see that query was okay, and we've managed to set up these different fields here. So the next thing that we want to do is use the command show tables once we are inside our patient database. Now, at the moment, you're going to be able to see it is erroring because I forgot my semicolon. If we press show tables or write show tables again, and again, we can see that it is still erroring. So show tables, semicolon, and we're going to be able to see that patient information has been created. Now, if you look back up here, that was the name of the table which we were creating. So, moving on to the next section, what we now want to be able to do is actually add information about all of these different patients. So we're going to type in here describe, and we are going to say patient information, which is the name of our table. And semicolon at the end. And you're going to be able to see here, these are all of the fields which we set up. So we've got our field name, we've got the data type that it is using, it is not null, we've got patient ID set as a primary key, and we've got this as auto incrementing. Now, something which you are probably going to want to do when you are learning databases is learn how to screenshot, maybe make some annotations, and then add this to your notes. So on your keyboards, if you press Command or Control, Shift and T, forgot that I'm not using a Mac at the moment, and if you zoom in using Control, Shift and plus, we are going to install a tool which is called flameshot. So if you type in this command, for me, I already have this installed, right? So it's not going to install anything, but for you, this is going to install that tool. You'll need to press yes to install the tool, and then you're going to be able to open up the application flameshot, and you will have this icon in the browser at the top. Now, what you can do here is click on it, and what you can do is draw around different tables that you're creating and maybe annotate it. So if you want to label this as primary key, you can draw a red box around it, you can make a note, and you can say this is how you set up a primary key. And then you can then add these SQL scripts or kind of language, right, to your notes. So I'm going to exit out of this for now and press on this, and we are going to continue with the next part of the session. Now, we've got our database set up, we've got our table set up, and we have set up the data types of all of these different fields. Now what we need to do is actually add data into our table. So in order to do this, in uppercase, you are going to type in insert into and then name of a table. So that's going to be patient information. And then you are going to open up your parentheses, and you're going to need to list all of your field names. So it's going to be patient ID. I probably recommend you list or create shorter field names than me. So patient underscore first name, patient underscore last name, patient underscore phone number, and the last one is going to be patient underscore doctor underscore name. Now, once you have listed all of these different fields, what you are going to do is close your brackets, and then you are going to press space and values in uppercase. And now what we want to do is add a couple of different records in here. So patient ID, I'm going to do 001, single speech marks, and then I'm going to do comma. I'm then going to do Rob for the first one, comma, last name Parker. Once I've done this, I'm going to enter my phone number, so 098765543. That isn't over the number of characters which we set, because we said patient phone number can be 10, but that's a little bit short, but that's okay for now. And close the single quotation or speech mark. And the last thing is going to be doctor's name, so I'm going to write Mr. Sam is my doctor, and then at the end I'm going to do parenthesis, closing, and then semicolon. Now, once I've done this, if I press on enter, hopefully we will be able to see that there are no errors. So query OK, one row affected. And what we want to do is see if that information is inside our database. Now, in order to do this, and these are all statements that you're going to have to learn for your exams, so we're going to say select all, that means star, from employee, that's not the name of my table, it's going to be patient underscore information, semicolon, and enter, and we will be able to see that one patient has been added into our database. So this is how we can interrogate the database and show all information that has been listed. And this is something which you're going to have to do for your exam. Now, all of the commands which I'm using here are from your book, right? And you are going to be completing task 9.2 a little bit later once you have watched all of this video and learned how to actually use some basic SQL scripts. Now, there are some other things that we can do here. So first of all, if I press on the up arrow, we probably want to add multiple records at one time. So if we are going to do this, what we are going to do is put a comma at the end of that parenthesis. And if we open up a new bracket, again, we can list our next ID, so 002. And then we are going to do Bob, make sure we've got those single quotations. We're going to say Bobson, single quotation still. We're going to do phone number and nice simple phone number for us. And doctor name, let's go with Mr. Sam still. And we can't finish or press enter here because what you're going to be able to see is we've got patient 001 here from the beginning as well, and that will actually error. So let's add two more records. So we're going to say 003, next one. We are going to say Jamie, and we are going to go for Oliver. Jamie Oliver is going to have a slightly different phone number to me. Hopefully that's under 10 characters, so 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, that's good. Doctor is also Mr. Sam. Last symbol that you need at the end here is your semicolon, and we're going to be able to see here that we have added an extra couple of patient records to our database. So I'm going to press on up, select star from patient information, and we have now got 3 records. Now, hopefully you have managed to create your database table, set up your validation records, and also add patient information. Now, what we have to do next here is we have to be able to add a new field to an existing database. And this is a particularly challenging task. So what I'm going to do here is go back over to my terminal window, and I'm going to highlight this for you here. If you want to make a change, to an existing table, we use the command alter table, and then name of table, which is patient information. We are going to do add column, and the name of the column is patient email, using varchar 35 characters, and we want it to be positioned after patient doctor name, which is this field name down here. Now, if you run this query, and if you want to add a new column, I would probably practice doing this first. And then if you want to have a look if it's been added, you can then type in describe patient information again. Now, the next thing that we're probably going to want to do is add patient emails into the existing database. And the best way for us to do this is to scroll back up, ignore any errors which I have on my screen here, and we're going to do this here. We can do insert into patient information, and then we can try to add emails from maybe this point forward and have a look at how we can update any existing records as well. Okay, so what we have now been able to do is we have been able to add a new record of data to that table with an email address now. So notice that we have created our new field. We've got email here. This is showing us information in the table. We've done another insert into statement. We've got email address tagged onto the end, and we've managed to add that information into our database. Now let's have a look to see if that information is actually in there. So in order to do that, we're going to say select star from, and it's going to be patient, and it's going to be underscore information. At the end, semicolon, and we're going to be able to see that there is an email address for Terry in here now, but there's no email address for any other patient. Now, can we overwrite an old record? So let's just say we want to overwrite record number 1. Let's say 001 for this record. If we change this name here to be Rob, if we go back to last name, and if we put in this here, let's put in that same phone number that was listed for Rob at the beginning. And I'm not 100% sure this is going to work, but let's see if we can overwrite data. So 6543, and we're going to say my doctor name is still going to be Mr. Sam, and this time my email can be rob@rob.com. Now this pretty much looks like everything is correct. Let's press on enter. And here we're going to be able to see there is a duplicate entry. Now, if there's a duplicate entry, did it overwrite the old record? Is the old record still there? Or are there 2 entries now in here? Let's do select from patient information. And what we're going to be able to see here is that it didn't work because it is a duplicate entry. So we're not actually able to update that information. We would have to delete the record and then re-add. All of the different queries we're writing in our SQL database, I am getting help from this website, which is W3 Schools, and I'm also using our book. Now, based on what we were just doing, we want to be able to delete a record from a database here. So what I'm going to do is copy this command. We're going to modify it and see if we can get it to work inside our database. So I'm going to paste this command in, and we are going to make a couple of edits. So remember, for my record, Mr. Rob, record number 1, we want to delete my record, and then we want to add it in again so I have an email address. So I'm going to do patient, and it's going to be information, and it's going to be where, and it's going to need to be patient first name for this record here. So patient, and it's underscore first name, and is equal to, and then it's just going to be Rob. Now let's see if we can remove that record and then re-add it. This looks pretty good, so we should be able to press on enter here. And it looks like that this has been updated. If we select on our up arrow, we want to do select from patient information, and that previous record is now gone. If I press on the up arrow again, I will be able to find the new record that I was trying to insert. If I add, looks like it's okay. Been added with an email address now, and if I do select from patient information again, Rob is now there with an email address. Now hopefully you've got a good understanding of how to now update a record or also delete a record. It is a little bit fiddly, and these are SQL queries which we are writing. This is going to be the end for today's video, and in our next video we're going to move on to interrogating databases. Hopefully you have partially enjoyed what we've been doing and you have a good understanding of SQL databases now, and I look forward to seeing you in our next session soon.